afternoon. Thank you, Lesroy, and thank you again to the COVID-19 Task Force for inviting us. I am here today to give some tips, provide some guidance, and some clarity around the misconceptions surrounding hand sanitizers. Let me start out by saying we were contacted by the COVID Task Force team to do some monitoring in the community for the local hand sanitizers. We have reached out to those entities. In some instances, we have visited the actual location, retrieved samples, brought them back to the Bureau to do some analysis. I'm here to say that we are satisfied with the alcoholic content that is fit for purpose in terms of fighting the COVID-19, so we have no issues there. However, some of the entities expressed the idea that they would want to export. So I'm just going to read again some of the standard protocols that are associated with labeling of products. So first of all, the product must contain the country of origin. It must have a physical address as well as a contact for the business. The units that are required in terms of the standard units would be SI units. So if you have ounces on the package, that is fine. But with relation to export, it must have on, let's say, milliliters if you listed in ounces. It must be accompanied by a batch number. It must have directions for use as well as warnings. And it also must indicate the contents, whether nutritional or otherwise. And in the instance of hand sanitizers, it's just the contents in terms of whether you're using aloe vera, glycerin, the type of alcohol, etc. Now, we should also try to avoid putting something on the label that you cannot substantiate. Like, for instance, saying something like, if you use this product, it cures cancer, or it stops you from getting sick, or it gives you eternal life, or whatever. Now, with respect to the concentration, persons were asking, why is it if I use a 91% isopropyl alcohol, for instance, why is that not as effective as a 70%? Why would everyone be stressing between 60 and 70, between 60 and 70? That's all you've been hearing. Now, the reason for that is simple. Well, not so simple, but when we have pure alcohol, let's say isopropyl alcohol is one of the alcohols that is heavier than the grain alcohol, which is ethanol. It's cheaper to make, and it has a high vapor pressure. So that means when you place alcohol of 99.8% isopropyl strength on your hands, only the point of contact is effective. From the moment you start to move that alcohol around on your hand, it becomes ineffective. Now, the reason for that is the water. When you add water to alcohol to dilute to the strength between 60 and 70%, it increases the strength in terms of the pliability of the alcohol across all areas. So that means the water acts as a catalyst to allow the prolonged use of the alcohol to move about on the surfaces that you're trying to sterilize, in this case, your hands. And in the case of isopropyl, it is ideal because it has a few features on it that allows it to not only clean oils and grease deposits, it's also miscible in water, so it's easy to dissolve. And it also has a low vapor pressure compared to its cousins like methanol and butanol, etc. So, if you're making your hand sanitizer, some persons have also asked, why can't I go into the store and I take a bottle of 70% isopropyl and use that to make my own hand sanitizer, you will be diminishing the strength of the alcohol. That is why if you're making the sanitizer, you have to start, let's say, somewhere in the 90s for pure alcohol, and when you do your dilution ratio, it will bring you down between the 60 to the 70 range, which, again, as I mentioned before, increases the contact time between the alcohol and the microbes. Now, what do I mean by contact time? That gives the alcohol enough time to move across the membrane of these cell walls of the bacteria, and it takes the alcohol along with it and the nature of the proteins on the inside. So that's basically how it works in a nutshell, and why the 70% is more pliable over the high strength for direct use. Now, with respect to thermometers, we have looked at quite a few of them across various institutions, police, the health sector, private sector. We have done the basic calibration on all of them that we have seen. So we had the emission strengths set to the appropriate levels for contact, for human, for skin, so to speak, because these thermometers are basically used generally for a range of purposes. So we would have set them specifically to apply directly to the intent, which is to catch the temperature from distance on a human being. So again, that's pretty much all that we have to say at this time from the Bureau. And I'd like to thank you again for inviting us. And if you have any concerns or questions about the mixing of the alcohol, or you need it to be verified, or if your business place purchasing the alcohol and you're not sure, those persons who would need verification for sale in the market, they can come to us and we can provide that certificate once we have verified the samples. Thank you again.